Awesome. Well, we're here with Dr. Fontari from the psych department. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what you do at Furman? And
Sure. I'm a social psychologist. I've been in the psychology department since 2001, so this is my 15th year of teaching here, and I'm chair of the psychology department.
Pretty cool. Okay, we're going to ask you a couple questions about our project,
Okay.
Siblings in Development.
Okay.
Okay, did you have any siblings growing up, and how many did you have?
I did. I have an older brother who's 5 years older.
Awesome. And how was your relationship with him?
It was good. I mean, when we were younger, the age difference made it so that we weren't always, interested in the same things, and I think the gender difference also contributed to that. But he's was always a really very kind older brother. I was sort of the annoying little sister more than anything. And as we've gotten older, we've definitely become closer. I think one of the benefits of having a sibling as your parents age and get sick and whatever is that you have someone to share that with. So that's been helpful as we've gotten older.
Nice. So you think that kind of your personality is kind of formed because of, I don't know, your age difference and stuff like that, do you think, as far as like the social psychology part of it goes?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are different, that's for sure. I think, I don't know, I mean, one of the theories in social psychology about siblings is that they often try and carve out their own niches, and so as long as they do that, then they get along really well. And another factor in that, though, is if there's a big enough age difference, it's not as important to carve out your niche because you just don't compare yourself as much to a sibling who's much older. And there was I forget what the actual age is, but it's probably around 5 years where there's less competition with the sibling. But some siblings, if they choose the same niche, so both are really athletic and they're close in age and they're the same gender, for example, sometimes that leads to more conflict amongst the siblings, at least at younger ages. So what often will happen is they naturally end up kind of choosing different preferences and strengths, and so you have the athlete and the academician, for example, and that allows them to maintain closeness instead of having conflict. Yeah. So my brother and I never really had that because he was so much older and male, and he's not a very competitive person. He didn't really care what I was doing most of the time. So I think it was never an issue for us, and we just kind of developed on our own, and I don't think either of us felt limited by the other one.
Okay. And so, like, how would you say that relationship with your brother affected, like, your family dynamic as a whole?
He was kind of a low-key person, so I was more of the one who I think pushed the family dynamic than he did. Younger, I mean, when we were both younger, it was just positive. I mean, we had a very positive relationship, and our family had, fun times together and that kind of thing. And now that we're older, though, I think he definitely takes on a lot more of the responsibility of aging parents than I have. Partly it's because he lives near them and I don't. So he's sort of the responsible sibling, and I'm the more emotional support person. So I guess we're still carving out our niches in some ways. So I think I'm very happy to have a sibling. I would be sad if I didn't have a sibling.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you that next. Did you growing up with siblings?
I did. I mean, it gives you someone else there, even though the age difference was there. It was. I mean, even growing up, he was really into sports, and I mean, I was dragged to every single sporting event that he ever had until I had my own sporting events to go to. But I kind of liked all that. I never minded that, sort of sharing what was going on in his life, and that made me sort of get exposed to things I wouldn't have gotten exposed to. So. I mean, I would be disappointed to not have a sibling, I think.
And how do you think you'd be different now if you hadn't had your brother in your life?
I don't know. I mean, definitely I would be way more stressed now. We lost my dad almost 3 years ago, and to not have had him involved in that would have been, I can't even imagine. He's just taken on a lot of responsibilities in the family that I'm not sure I could handle right now. His kids are a little bit older. My kids are really young. He's much more savvy with finances and things like that. He's just really stable and responsible. So I can't imagine. It would be. I just can't imagine not having him now in my life, especially with family and parents and things like that.
And you now have a family of your own, right?
I do.
So you have 2 daughters, correct?
I do. One is 7, one is 4. They're 3.5 years apart.
And then how have you kind of seen them kind of playing the role of siblings and affecting
totally
each other?
I think 2 girls are different. I think they are closer in age, so there's a lot more competition. They have totally different personalities, which is not that uncommon. Siblings often are very different. I think they do compete for attention a little bit more. I don't remember having that with my brother. And again, maybe the closest in age and the same gender. I think there is this idea of fairness with the older one. The older one always wants it to be fair. The younger one doesn't really understand that concept, but I think that's very much she's watching what the younger one gets to do and doesn't have to do, and so they're generating these ideas about the world based on what happens for one of them and not the other. But the little one, she's always wanting to be with the older one and always wanting to be with the older one's friends, and so it's a balancing act. But they definitely are more competitive than I remember my brother and I being. But they also are companions, and they're getting, they're 7 and 4, so up until maybe 6 months to a year, the age difference, the 3.5 years was there, but Lena was really young. So as I think they get older, I'm hoping they will become closer and closer. I think having a sister, a sister having a sister girl having a sister is a great thing. And I'm hoping that ends up being a support system for each of them. I didn't have sisters, so I don't know. I hope that's what it means for them.
I'm sure it will. And then the last question is, what do you think, in your professional social psychologist opinion, the biggest positive and negative impacts of having a sibling would be?
Oh, gosh.
A broad question.
I think they can just really enrich your life. And they have different interests, they have different talents, and then they eventually might have their own families, so then you have these other people that are close to you in your life, your nieces, nephews, cousins, and I think family, that's so important. It really enriches your life. And like I mentioned, I think sharing the burden of aging parents and family issues is really helpful. I can't imagine having to take that on my own. The worst parts, as I watch my girls, they bicker and they fight and they compete, but they're young, so I'm hoping that that won't be an issue. See, my dad had 2 brothers, my mom has a brother, and you could see some of the negative family dynamics of competition and fighting over things like resources and finances, but I think those are definitely not as influential as the good things that you get out of it.
Well, thank you very much for talking about this. I guess that's it.
Okay, Celia, thank you so much for being interviewed today.
Of course.
So you are an only child,
Yes.
and we're going to get your perspective with growing up without siblings. So what was it like growing up without siblings?
I enjoyed it for the most part. It was pretty quiet and chill. I feel like my household was a lot more relaxed than a lot of my friends. But
Yeah. How would your life have been different with the presence of siblings?
I think how I interact with other people my own age would be different.
Yeah. What about the relationship or how you interacted with your parents?
It would probably be really different. I'm not exactly sure how, but
Are you particularly close with your parents with the absence of siblings?
I'm really close with my dad, not as much with my mom, but
Okay. Have you ever wanted siblings?
yes, I wanted an older brother.
That seems to be a trend for your whole life.
When I was little, I did. I
Okay.
think I got to probably middle school or high school and was like, I'm okay being an only child. I don't want an older brother that much.
Yeah. What was your favorite thing about being an only child?
I did get to spend a lot more time with my parents one-on-one than a lot of other kids did, and I didn't have annoying younger siblings, which I enjoyed.
Did all the time with your parents, did you feel like you were ever crowded with your parents' attention?
Sometimes. My parents were pretty good at staying more hands-off and not like helicopter parenting me, but there were definitely some times where it was like, okay, I can do this on my own kind of thing.
What about least?
It could get boring sometimes. Like, I didn't grow up in a neighborhood that had a lot of kids my age either, so I learned very quickly how to entertain myself
Yeah.
because I didn't have people to like play with or do things with, or if we went on vacation, like it's just me and my parents. It's not siblings to hang out with too.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself an independent person
Yes,
now? And does that have to do with being an only child, do you think?
I think so. I'm very, very comfortable doing 99% of things completely by myself,
Yeah.
and don't always enjoy doing them with other people.
Did you have an imaginary friend or anything like that growing up as a child?
I think so. I didn't necessarily have like one that was like,
Go to.
yeah, but I guess I had imaginary siblings when I was really little. But that was just sort of my own wanting siblings at the time.
Yeah. And then we've kind of touched on this, but how has being an only child influenced your relationship with those around you? Maybe your friends or peers your own age?
I think I'm not as good talking to people my own age. I think that's a skill I've had to learn, whereas I'm very comfortable talking with adults.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bother me at all because I was around adults a lot growing up.
Great.